I got involved in this charity back in the year 2000. They were looking for someone to volunteer. I was looking for something good to do. And it was at that time that I started learning about fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome and the large number of people it affects and how devastating it is on their lives. And so I decided to get involved, and over the past 8 years I got more and more involved. Fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome are life-changing. They're unforgettable. They're with you every day. They impact the people around you. They change your life in so many ways. Often people will lose employment. People will lose friends, people will lose their sense of self, their self-esteem, everything that they grounded their lives on. And so both these illnesses are hugely impactful on a person's life, psychologically, physically, emotionally, and economically.
If you could do something about it, what would you do?
If I could do something to help people with chronic fatigue syndrome, there would be a need for greater research. There'd be a need for better health care, a team approach. Obviously, in both fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome, we need better medications, greater research to lead those medications, and then societal acceptance. If we look at how cancer was treated in the 50s and early 60s, it was a source of shame for those who had it. Similarly, with chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia being so stigmatized, it would help if people looked at it differently, and it's taken a long time for cancer to come around. The same thing needs to happen for chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. Our charity has talked to a lot of doctors, and we've gained a lot of sympathy for doctors. And it's not to say that the patients aren't presenting valid concerns, but what we've learned from doctors is to make a profit in the medical system, very often you have to see patients quickly. And when a patient comes in and is in need of a long discussion to learn about their case history, and then is presenting symptoms that the doctor has never been formally educated about, and for which there are not prescribed, standardized, sort of gold standard tests, it's really hard for a doctor to do something effectively and to achieve results that make them feel good about what they're doing. And it's hard on their practice. And so it's a challenge for the medical system, and that makes it really tough on patients. Patients are frantically looking for doctors. In Ottawa here, we have an estimated 30 to 50,000 patients, and we can't find any doctors willing to accept new patients. There seems to be only 2 or 3 in the city that have any patients at all. So it's frustrating on both sides of the equation.
Wow, that's pretty wild. There's a big screen right there, about 50 feet high.
Mm-hmm.
You're inside a big hockey arena. There's 10,000 doctors from all over the world having a conference. You're on that screen. What would you say to these doctors about what they should, how they should think and deal with each of these issues? And you don't have to know.
In the words of a former chief medical officer of Ottawa, patients with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome need a lot more compassion from doctors. Granted, there aren't yet the medications that would make this as easy to treat as, say, a broken leg or something like this, but these patients do have observable physiological changes in their bodies. There are now a whole range of tests that can be used to document the differences in their biology, their physiology, and the impact on their lives is tremendous, and so they need compassion. Whatever a doctor can do for them would be useful. There's a lot of sources of information now that doctors can draw upon, a lot of research going on. Granted, it's still at an early stage, but that can give doctors some insight into what they're facing.